Hey everybody, this is Nick Baldwin, and today I'm being joined by UFC middleweight contender Jack the Joker Hermansson, who's coming off a big decision win over Edmen Shahbazyan last month at UFC Fight Night. Jack, how are you?
I'm good. I'm good. Just came home from some hotel quarantine, so it's good to be home.
You're quarantining for what? Coming home from the fight?
No, I was in Sweden, and then when I get back to Norway, I need to quarantine to get in the country here. So,
What was going on in Sweden?
and just a good fishing trip.
Ah, very nice. How was that?
It was good. It was a good one. Enjoyed it.
What one of your better fishing trips or average?
No, definitely one of the better. So
Nice.
yeah, it was a good one.
Is that typically, if we're in the right season, anyways, is that typically like what you like to do post fight? Go on a little trip, whether it's fishing or something else.
Yeah, 100%. As soon as I have any free time, I will go out fishing.
There's these days in MMA, it seems like there's a lot of people who think they're great fishermen. Conor McGregor, Gregor Gillespie. Where do you stack up against these other fishermen fighters?
I'm the best. I'm the best. That's for sure. You know, they're not even close.
That's funny. Well, let's talk about this fight with Edmen. It was a great performance, especially because I think maybe we can probably both agree that maybe the first round wasn't your strongest round, and then you came back really well in the second and third. Coming in off that loss to Marvin Vettori, how important was it for you to get back on track in this fight and get this win?
Extremely important. You know, every fight is your biggest fight. Coming off a loss, it's even more important, of course. But my goal is to become the best. So a loss is never good if that's your goal. So you want to win everything there is. So I was happy to get the win.
Yeah, and I don't think anybody looked at this fight as a must win for you, or a fight where if you didn't win, you wouldn't be a contender anymore. Nothing like that. But there's a big difference between your last four fights going 2-2 and 1-3. Like how people look at that, it changes a lot of things, right?
Definitely. It's super important to stay up there, stay amongst those top names. There's nobody right now besides Whitaker that has a very perfect win streak where they are the absolute contender. So I feel like anybody that just can chain a couple of wins together is the guy that's up next for the title.
And I guess that what you're saying is kind of how Marvin Vettori got to a title shot, because he won a few in a row, but he didn't beat a Robert Whitaker. And so I think what you're saying is true, where it's kind of wide open, where you get a couple wins and you're going to be right there, possibly fighting Israel.
Yeah, definitely. So yeah, that's the plan from now and forward. Get a big name and beat him and get right up there.
Yeah. As I mentioned, the first round against Edmen, a bit of a tougher round. How did you feel about how it went going into that second round?
Yeah, going into the second round, I knew that I lost the first round and that I need to change things up, and I just needed to switch tactics, just be a little bit more, ruthless, more pressure forward, higher volume, and just get into the clinch and get my work done. So a little bit more urgency in the second and in the third.
How were you able to make those adjustments relatively easily? Again, the first round was a lot different than how rounds 2 and 3 played out. Some fighters can't really make those adjustments mid-fight, but you were able to. How did you do so?
Yeah, I think that you can never lock into a game plan. You need to have a plan B, and my plan was to establish my jab and do my feints and make him bite on them, and I wanted him to commit a lot with his punches, so I could get the takedowns, but nothing of that worked. He started to hit me with his jab, and I started to bite on his feints. So I just understood that I can't play this distance game with him. I need to just do something totally different. And the most important thing is that I get in contact with him so I can start with my grappling. So that's what I did.
Do you think the fact that you were able to make those adjustments so well kind of shows like or proves how much of a veteran you are, how talented you are, that the fact that you are a contender? Like, what is the fact that you were able to have not the best round one, but then come back in rounds 2 and 3? What does that sort of prove about where you're at as a fighter?
Yeah, I definitely think that comes down to experience. That you don't get, discouraged or so. And I have a strong mentality when it comes to winning in my fights. I never, I'll never give up or anything like that. I will always try to find a way to win the fight, no matter how bad it goes in there. So I think that's one of the things that I'm very good at, handling. I can dig deep if I need to in my fights.
And you landed some really nasty ground and pound in that, towards the end of the fight. Were you at all surprised the ref didn't stop it, or were you surprised that Shahbazyan was tough and was able to hang in there?
No, the thing was that it was all tactics. I knew that I could pass his guard whenever I wanted to, and I probably could get to mount whenever I wanted to. But there is a risk to that we saw in the first round when I was eager to pass. He scrambled and he got on top. So I wanted to play a little bit safe and stay in the half guard and just give some ground and pound from there. And then my plan was, in the end of the round, I was gonna advance and finish the fight. But it's really hard when you don't have the time in front of you. You're not sure where we are in the round. And suddenly I hear the 10-second clap, and all right, we need to finish this. And I tried to finish it, but I didn't have enough time. So if I would have started my advancing my positions a little bit earlier, probably I would have ended the fight.
Were you confident when the judges were reading the scorecards? Because I think, if I'm remembering correctly, there was a few people thinking, hey, this might have been a draw if they somehow gave Edmen like round 2 and then you a 10-8 round. But were you pretty sure that you had won 2-1?
You can never be sure, and the second round was a close one, to be fair. But I watched it again, and it's really easy when somebody ends the round very well, and Edmen ended the round very well. But the majority of the round 2 was mine, So I definitely now I definitely think that I won round 2 as well. But there in the fight, I wasn't 100%.
Yeah. Some people going into this fight were a little surprised about the matchmaking and the fact that they gave Edmen, who was number 6 or number 7 in the division, a top contender, one of the best in the division. Because Edmen is 22 years old, he's still kind of a prospect, an up-and-comer, coming off his first professional loss. Now, you're not going to say no to the fight. You're going to take it if that's what the UFC wants. But were you a little surprised that they were giving Edmen to you?
No, they have been. I think they have been asking for that fight for a long time, because his name has come up in several discussions with the UFC before. So I think that the team of Edmen probably felt like they had something on me and that they couldn't beat me. So I think it's actually his team that pushed for the fight. So I wasn't too surprised, because if you have a young guy like that, a striker, and you want to build him up, it probably would have been better to put him against another striker. But that's how it works. Sometimes people, when they are from a striking background, or people in his team, they might look at the grappler and think that his striking is not that good. It's going to be an easy win for us, and they get their tactics all wrong. But I would love to see Edmen against some other strikers. Edmen is a great striker, so it would be super cool to see him against a guy like Darren Till or something like that.
Yeah, I mean, do you have any advice for Edmen, just in his shoes? I mean, he's 22, as I said. He was winning, doing very well in the UFC, and now he's lost 2 in a row. So I would imagine this early in his career, he's kind of starting to face a bit of self-doubt. He's wondering, like, how did this happen? How am I on a 2-fight skid? As someone who obviously you have a lot more experience than him, you've been around a lot longer. Is there anything you would tell him? Any sort of advice you would give him?
Yeah, definitely. When I was 23 years old as him, I was not much of grappler myself. So the thing is that he's so young, so he still has, if he was an older fighter, then you can't just start to invest loads of time to get better at something, because that then you need to just try to adapt your styles to your strengths. But I feel like Edmen is still so young and that he has a lot of room for growth. So, just start to get even, he's not bad at grappling. That's not what I'm saying. But, get even better at the grappling, get even better at wrestling, so good that you think that that's a place where I want to fight. That's where I want to take the fight, as well as the striking. So, and I think he's probably one of the guys that can do that, bring his MMA to that level where he can be really good at everything. He's super talented and very young, as I said. So, just continue to work on the things that you need to improve.
Yeah, and do you think now is maybe the time to take a bit of a step down in competition, just because, back-to-back fights against Derek Brunson and yourself, those are two very tough outs and arguably a step up in competition. Do you think now's the time to maybe fight someone in the 15 to 20 range, so to speak?
Yeah, maybe, but it's so hard in the UFC. Everybody is so good, and sometimes the greatest talent is coming up from underneath. They have to come from somewhere. So it's not easy when you're in the UFC. Everybody are killers, so it's hard to be tactical about it. But hopefully he can get a matchup that fits his style well, and he'll get back with a win.
Yeah. As you spoke about a bit earlier, middleweight is kind of a bit of a wide open division right now. We, of course, have the title fight between Israel Adesanya and Marvin Vettori tomorrow night. And then after that, it seems like Whitaker will probably get the next shot. But then beyond that, you have Jared Cannonier fighting Gastelum. You beat Gastelum a year ago. As you said, it takes only a couple wins to really cement your case as sort of the number one guy, as a title, as a title challenger. Where does this win put you, and where do you see yourself in the division, and how far away are you from that potential title shot?
No, I feel like they have to match me up with somebody above me now, and if that's the winner of Brunson and Till, or if that is Paulo Costa, I'm not sure, but some of that caliber should be the next fight. So I'm right around the corner. So hopefully in the end of the year, I get one of those guys, and with a good performance, I should be right up there as the next contender.
So you're willing to sit out for a little bit of time, because I know those fights are scheduled for August and September.
Yeah, absolutely. And I want some time now to rebuild my physique, and some time to grow as a fighter. So I think it's going to be good for me to have a little bit, not time off from training, but time off from the fights, because when you're in a camp and preparing for an opponent, there is not room for some stuff that I would like to work on. So yeah.
What is that stuff you'd like to work on that maybe you can't work on when you're getting ready for an actual fight?
No, I would like to put some time into my physical development. I want to get even stronger. I would love to actually. I would love to be developing my wrestling a little bit, perfect that a little bit. I have a wrestling background, but there is still some adjustments that I need to do. I think if I can bring my wrestling to the next level, I will be able to put people down with even more ease. And if I get people down, there is a very slim chance for them to survive. So if I get even better at putting people there, I should be an even more dangerous fighter.
How important is it to take a bit of time between camps and really focus on yourself and improving your game? Because often, we've heard fighters say before that when someone's fighting like 5 times a year, every 2 months or every 3 months, you don't have that. You don't really see that progression as much as you do when someone's taking 6 months off between fights, or maybe even a bit longer. How important is that time to spend sort of just in the gym and getting better?
Yeah, I think it's important, but a lot of fighters, when they don't have their fights, they basically train like shit, So it depends on what you do with that time, and if you're eager to grow and eager to put the time into it, you can use that time very well. But some people, they are just about the camps, So they basically are barely training in between fights, and that's I would probably say that there's probably 50% of the fighters are like that. So, but I was always one of the guys that trained all year round. I train as much off and on season. It's the same for me. So for a guy like myself, I think that can be useful. But at the same time, I like to stay active as well. So, but right now, I feel like that's a good moment.
Yeah, it's kind of a balance, because I think if you sit out for too long, then maybe you feel a bit rusty going into your next fight. But if you're taking so many fights like Cowboy Cerrone, then maybe you're just not getting better, right?
Yeah, exactly.
I wanted to quickly get your thoughts on tomorrow's main event between Adesanya and Vettori. You of course have 25 minutes in the cage with Vettori, and Adesanya, I'm sure you're quite familiar with as a champion in your division. What do you make of the fight, and how do you see it playing out?
Yeah, I see Adesanya as a favorite, of course. He hasn't lost in middleweight, so you got to have him as a favorite coming into the fight. I think it's going to be hard for Vettori, especially early in the fight, with Adesanya's feints and precision and timing and distance. But in their first fight, Vettori started to take over in the third round. This is a 5-round fight, so I believe that Vettori is going to come in the later of the fight, and it's not impossible that he's going to, start to take over in the third and win the third, fourth, and fifth, and take a decision. Vettori is extremely durable, and he takes a punch well, and he keeps on going forward, and he has great conditioning, so that plays into him. But I have Adesanya as a favorite, but that it is a 5-rounder definitely plays into Vettori's advantage.
For sure. Well, Jack, congratulations again on the big win over Edmen last month, and thanks again for taking the time.
Thank you very much.